Thank God you're here, because today is all about The Little Mermaid. That's right, we're going to tell you all about the Little Mermaid statue in Copenhagen, Denmark, from its fairy tale story beginning to the statue in the harbor today.
And we'll take you on a tour of Copenhagen, detailing the history of the Little Mermaid, showing you how to see it, and stick around for a demented twist of the Little Mermaid at the end.
Let's go!
Welcome to Rope Trotting. We're Derek and Mike, an American couple who moved from the US to Copenhagen in 2017. Our channel is all about living abroad and traveling the world. Every Thursday, we drop our most candid advice and tips based on our lives as expats and explorers. For more, be sure to visit our companion site, ropetrotting.com, with a link in the description below. And today's Danish phrase of the day is the Little Mermaid, the Little Havfru, literally the Little Sea Woman.
So we're in front of Hans Christen Andersen's house. He lived in the red building behind us from 1835. And the story of the Little Mermaid was written in 1836 and published in 1837. It inspired the famous statue, and as you may know, the story is about a mermaid who saves a shipwrecked prince and falls in love. She trades her voice and her fishtail in order to have the opportunity to meet him. But if you wed somebody else, she'll turn into sea foam and disappear into the sea forever. Of course, the Disney version of this tale gives the story a happy ending, but in Hans Christen Andersen's story, it doesn't end so well for her. She does turn into sea foam and disappear into the sea, so the face of the statue has a much more melancholy face, and you'll notice the sadness when we get there. It's very different than the smiling mermaid you see on the Disney movie poster.
We're here at Kongens Nytorv in front of the Royal Danish Theatre, or Det Kongelige Teater, which is the home of the Royal Danish Ballet. This is the place where the story of the Little Mermaid, the statue, begins. In 1909, Carl Jacobsen attended a performance of the Little Mermaid by the ballet company. He was so excited by the ballet that he commissioned a sculptor, Edvard Eriksen, to make a statue of the Little Mermaid. He asked the prima ballerina to pose for the statue of the Little Mermaid. Her name was Ellen Price, and she agreed on one condition: she refused to pose nude. So for that reason, the Little Mermaid is actually a composite of two different models. It's Ellen Price's face, but it's actually the wife of the sculptor who is the body of the Little Mermaid. 4 years after the ballet, the statue was unveiled to the public on August 23, 1913. To this day, the Little Mermaid celebrates its birthday on that date. Now, we should mention something about Carl Jacobsen, the man who commissioned the statue. He's not just any person. In fact, at that time, he was probably the wealthiest man in all of Denmark. Carl Jacobsen is the son of the man who founded Carlsberg Brewery, and in fact, Carlsberg is named after Carl Jacobsen himself. Carl Jacobsen was a very savvy businessman who helped transform Carlsberg from a regional brewery to the international conglomerate we know of it today. He used his wealth to invest in cultural activities, including the Glyptotek Art Museum and public art like the Little Mermaid. And before we move on, it's probably worth saying that it's a little creepy that probably the richest, most powerful man in Denmark went up to a prima ballerina and asked her to pose for his statue. So good on Ellen Price for being willing to only show her face and not the rest of her body.
Now we're going to talk about some interesting facts about the statue. The first thing that may surprise you is, well, as you see over my shoulder, it's actually kind of small. It's only about a meter tall, or about 4 feet if you're not using a metric system like a lot of our American friends. It may also surprise you to know that this is actually a duplicate of the original statue. The original is owned and maintained by the heirs of the sculptor, Edvard Eriksen. A little bit of controversy about the statue. In the year 2010, it was actually moved from Copenhagen to Shanghai for the World Expo. A lot of people thought that that was way too long to move one of the biggest landmarks in Copenhagen to another country. 6 months is pretty long. But one cool thing that came out of that is the family of Edvard Eriksen, the original sculptor, decided to display the first statue at Tivoli, and it was displayed in the lake for that summer. And that's not the only copy of the statue. You can find them in other cities as well, like Madrid, Seoul, and Calgary. Now there's 2 American cities where a lot of the residents have Danish heritage, and they also have copies of the Little Mermaid. You can find one in Solvang, California, and Kimballton, Iowa. The city of Greenville, Michigan also tried to display their own copy of the Little Mermaid, but they were sued for copyright infringement. They actually got around it because they were able to prove that the face was a little bit different and it had bigger breasts. That's Americans for you. You'll also find a copy of the Little Mermaid statue at the burial site of Danish-American entertainer Victor Borge. And one more fun fact, there was a Danish politician that once posted a photo of the Little Mermaid, and Facebook banned it online for too much sexual undertones and bare skin. Eventually, they did allow the photo to be displayed, and it's kind of a funny joke, but I guess some things just aren't meant for the delicate eyes of Facebook.
As you can see behind me, the Little Mermaid is totally accessible, and sometimes too accessible. There's a long history of vandalism ranging from the politically charged to just the tongue-in-cheek. One of the earliest cases was in 1964 when vandals decapitated the Little Mermaid and took away her head. Originally it was thought to be an anti-capitalist protest, but decades later the perpetrator admitted that it was only because he was in a personal rage over losing a girl. Perhaps inspired by this, her head and limbs have come off multiple times during the years. In 1984, her arm was sawed off. Originally it was also thought to be a political message, but in the end it was only some drunken hijinks, and the arm was returned 2 days later. In 1990, vandals tried to decapitate her once again, but couldn't get too far, leaving a giant gash in the back of her neck. In 1998, her head was taken off once again. This time, the Copenhagen police dispatched their murder squad to investigate the matter, and upon doing so, the head was returned to a TV station a few days later. Perhaps her most dramatic experience occurred in 2003, when political protests against Danish involvement in the Iraq War set explosives and blew her off the rock and into the harbor, letting her swim for the first time. She's been an object of less destructive political protest in recent years, including having paint tossed on her, wearing a burqa, holding a dildo, and wearing a gas mask. Protests in recent years have been more targeted, focusing on things like feminism and political prisoners, whaling in the Faroe Islands, democracy in Hong Kong, and Black Lives Matter. But sometimes she's just a mannequin for fun, wearing national jerseys when Denmark is playing in certain sporting events.
Now, it's probably important to talk about public opinion of the statue itself. Foreign tourists love the statue. In fact, it's usually overrun, especially in the summer months. On a sunny day, you could be waiting for 15 minutes just to go up and get a picture next to the statue. For Danish people, I think the statue's kind of meh. Now, it's funny because we read a lot of blogs about Copenhagen, and many of them will talk about how the Little Mermaid statue is about the same as the Statue of Liberty is to New Yorkers, and that's just not quite the case. Now, I think part of it is because Danish people don't really brag or make a big deal about the landmarks in their country. They know it's beautiful, and that's fine for other people to judge for themselves. But it's really not for them to get hyped about a statue. It's kind of just a statue. Now, wherever you come from in the world, drop in the comments and let us know if you think the Little Mermaid is something that you must see or is nice to see. And also let us know where you come from, because we're really curious what Danes actually think of it compared to everybody else in the world. Now, in Philadelphia, the city that we moved to Copenhagen from, there's a similar statue of Rocky, the fictional boxer from the 1970s movie franchise. It's located right next to one of the most beautiful buildings in the entire city, the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and people in Philadelphia are kind of meh. Some people love it, some people really could do without it, and most people are just kind of like, meh. There's a quote from the Copenhagen City Director of Tourism that I think sums it up quite well. He said, "The Little Mermaid may be a small artifact compared to other great historical monuments around the world, but she captures both history and fairy tale, which causes quite a stir outside of the borders of Denmark." I think that quote sums it up pretty well. I mean, people do like the statue, and they do know that there are many bigger landmarks in other cities around Europe and the world, but it's nice to have something like this in the city itself.
So now we've given you a little bit of the history of the Little Mermaid and some of the context around it. But one of the decisions to make is when you visit Copenhagen, should you go see the Little Mermaid? And our opinion is, yeah, you should, but also realize that it's a little statue, not that close to other attractions, so you need to build your trip around it. For one, if you're going to go see it, go early. That way you can avoid the big crowds during the peak of tourist season. Also, we recommend that you either rent or borrow bikes so that you can take a bike ride out there. This will be a lot easier to see because public transit isn't very close to the Little Mermaid. If you're a runner, it's also a good way for you to get some exercise and run out along Langeleen Pier and be able to see the Little Mermaid along the way. If you do come out this way, there are other attractions that are a little bit offbeat but are worth visiting. For one, Castellet, which is a part of the Old City fortifications, is a great place to walk around and has some good Instagram spots as well. In the springtime, St. Albans Church is particularly beautiful as the cherry blossoms are in bloom. The whole Langeleen Pier is a great way to see the harbor. And near St. Albans Church is the Gaon Fountain, which is a beautiful place for shots as well. And the Danish Resistance Museum has recently reopened, which is a great way to see archival footage of Denmark during World War II. But if you ask us the best way to see the Little Mermaid, it's from the water. We recommend seeing it as part of a canal boat tour. By doing that, you'll be able to get a great picture of the Little Mermaid from a perspective that most people don't see. And also, you can see all the ridiculous tourists climbing around the rocks in the background. and it's especially good if you're short on time. This way you can enjoy a beautiful canal boat trip and also get your shot of the Little Mermaid along the way. And in the description below, we'll see some links to various canal boat options so that you can pick one of them for your tour. And if you want to see an even more offbeat version of the Little Mermaid, come see the genetically modified Little Mermaid. This is a sculpture that was made by an artist named Bjørn Noga, and he's also a professor at the Royal Danish Academy of Fine Arts. The look is definitely a twisted figure, with mangled legs instead of a fin and a totally unrecognizable face. Let's go take a look. The sculpture is designed to be a humorous take on postmodern society and is also a critique on genetic modifications. It was actually created to be part of the Danish pavilion of the 2000 World Fair in Hanover, Germany, and was accompanied by other figures, including genetically modified versions of Mary Magdalene, Christ, Adam and Eve, and others.
Thank you so much for watching our video. We hope you guys enjoyed it and give it a thumbs up. We really hope that you learned something about the Little Mermaid, whether all you knew about it was Disney or maybe you're a little more experienced or even have been to Copenhagen. We hope you got something out of it. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit the bell so you can be notified every time we have new content come out on Thursdays. And to close things out, we're gonna have a original Carlsberg because let's face it, this is part of the reason why we have the Little Mermaid today. Skål!